Hey, Anke Herman. Um, Today I want to answer a question that someone wrote to me explaining the situation, and I don't know, like somehow really touched me because there was this sense of a catch 22 of being caught in a situation where there was no way out. And so what she was saying that she'd love to start a sewing business, but she's a single mom, got two kids, full-time job, and she lives with family. And they basically say, well, why do you waste your time? And, you should be focusing on your family. And why, what I heard in there was like, why being so selfish to want to do this thing when you should be there to look after your family. And so there she was. It was her dream here, and all the things she has to do on the other side. And so I decided to record a video because I've got a sense that she might not be the only one in that kind of situation. Um, Now, what looks really bleak, looking from one angle, there's another way of seeing the same situation, right? Um, because when I hear you've got a full-time job, well, I mean, out of all of that, first thing, okay, I definitely get that there isn't much spare time, right? To kind of just sort of potter around and really focus on your sewing business and building that up. So it might go a bit slower, but having a full-time job takes an awful lot of pressure off, right? Because I remember a couple of years in when, I no longer had a full-time job and sewing was really the only way to bring in income. The sense of hustle of you know, that you have to get sewing work, like that can build up a lot of pressure. That when you actually have a job, which also means you have a regular paycheck, you can really come from a lot stronger point, from a lot stronger position, because you don't need the money, let's say, right? So, and you can afford to build this up slowly rather than having to take on anything and frantically kind of sort of trying to keep your head over water. Now, when I think of the kids, it's like, well, a sewing business is one of those, and it was actually one of my considerations as well, that I've always wanted to be able to work from home. For me it was because I wanted to have a dog, but especially when you have kids, being able to work from home opens up time to be able to spend with your kids. I mean, even if you're sewing, but you're around. You're not like the mom who sees them, it's just a little bit of time at night, if you're lucky, right? And the part about the family who isn't supportive, yeah, welcome to the club, right? So I think it happens, like, I would really love to, if you're watching this, I would really love to hear from you in the comments when you first started, with telling your family and your friends about this idea, I want to start a sewing business. What was the reaction? How much support did you get? I remember when I, told my colleagues and whatever, I was working in IT, right? And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I'm going to move to Spain, start a sewing business. They looked at me like, you're nuts. Like, you've lost the plot. You've gone crazy. Everybody's like, yeah, well, yeah, And the thing is, you can't really pay too much. I mean, listen to what they're saying. If they've got a point in some way, well, I'm not saying you just should blatantly reject anything anybody says to you, but keep in mind, whatever reaction you get is more of a reflection of what's going on for them than it is about you. What comes out there is their own fears, their own perhaps regrets of things that they haven't done that they would have wanted to do, their own idea of their values, of what can be done, what should be done, and all of that has nothing to do with you. And the other thing, and I remember, Alithia, if you're listening, because I'm sure you remember the conversation, is when you first start, everyone goes, yeah, no, that's never going to work. You know, I'll forget about that. You know how many times I heard that? And later, when you've actually done it, then the same people will come back and say, oh yeah, I always knew you were going to pull that off. I always knew you were going to be successful. At the end of the day, everybody always knew, you know, but at the time, I think most of the time it's even out of, I would suspect, mostly good intentions. They want to protect you from disappointment and they want to protect you from failure. Often they might be scared of losing importance in your life, or maybe you're no longer there for them as you are now. So it's all about their fears, right? But when you come to the end of your life, will you regret not having taken steps forward? That's really the question you need to answer. And it doesn't mean that you have to drop everything. You design your life. If you say, well, okay, I want to have time for the kids, you know, I want to spend time with my family, this is the kind of life I want. And then what's the very next tiny step I can take towards that? And that might mean, okay, first thing to do is make a really super cute skirt for my kid to wear at school, because the other kids will be asking, oh, I want a skirt like that, right? And then you start selling. That's just an example. If you have boys, like, you know, obviously you won't want to modify it, but that very first step, okay, if you start to sell, or you make little backpacks for the kids or whatever, and then, because I remember I made a doggy vest for one of my dogs, and before I knew it, the whole neighborhood wanted vests, like polka dot vests for their dogs, you know. And then you can see, okay, do I like making more of those? Is there some way that I can grow this into a business? And if yes, fine, you take the next step. And if not, okay, you'll do something else. And really just take one step at a time without needing to know too many steps in advance. I always forget who said it, but there was this powerful quote that says, somebody said about what it is like to write a book, and I really find it so spot on for creating a business out of like nothing. It's like driving at night in the fog with the headlights on. You can just see a few meters in front of you, but you can make the whole journey that way. So all you really need to know is, where am I headed? What is it that I'd really love to have? How would I really love to live my life? And what's the very next tiniest step that I can take in that direction? And then go take that step. See you again soon.